Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. Also, welcome back to our cruise series of videos where we travel by ship to so many different locations and amazing attractions in Europe. As you probably already know, cruising is a great way to travel around and see several amazing destinations. You don't have to worry about lugging your belongings everywhere you go, and you can see so many different places in one trip. It's also a great way to experience some amazing food, world-class entertainment, great music, and many fun activities while also getting a great night of sleep and waking up in your next destination. You basically take all the boring and time-consuming bits out of travel. However, it is hard to argue that for many, cruising is really only feasible for groups of 2 or more people. But sometimes you just want to travel by yourself, so why should that hold you back from having a great cruise experience? Thankfully, you have options if you're a solo traveler looking for a cruise experience. This video today is going to be a bit different than our regular videos. Instead of taking a ship to an exotic destination, or showing you around on a ship tour, we're going to be talking about one of the ways that cruising has been made so much more accessible and fun for solo travelers. We're going to be talking about, of course, the solo cabins, and even show you an example of one of these cabins. Many cruise lines, including big names like Holland America, Royal Caribbean, Celebrity, P&O, and many more have started making solo cabins available to their guests years ago, with many more joining this trend each year. These are cabins specifically designed for single occupancy, which is great for solo travelers or even groups of single travelers who don't feel like sharing beds with other people. For the purpose of this video, we'll be talking mainly about Norwegian's so-called studio suites, because we actually had some experience with these rooms. Like the other cruise lines, NCL started coming out with the solo cabins on their newer ships a while ago. You can currently find solo cabins on 7 NCL ships, including the Encore, Escape, Bliss, Breakaway, Epic, Getaway, Pride of America, and 2 of Norwegian's newest ships, the Prima and Viva. Each of these ships has a studio cabin section of the ship, meaning all these cabins are right next to each other. They're usually located between 2 or 3 different decks in the same area of the ship. This area of the ship is completely private and only accessible to studio cabin passengers. There's keycard entry to the hallway and other common areas meant for studio suite guests, so you don't have to worry about other passengers walking through. As we mentioned, there are common areas in these studio room sections of the ship. In these common areas, studio guests can mingle and meet other solo travelers. Here you'll find comfortable sofas and chairs, TVs and tables, and more amenities in the studio lounges. There are free refreshments and some finger foods made available, as well as free coffee throughout the day, which is a nice touch. NCL also puts on several meet and greets for solo travelers several times throughout each cruise. The lounges also have a full-service bar with somebody attending the bar in the evening hours, as well as during these meet and greet events. Apart from the privacy and common areas, why else would somebody want to book a studio cabin? For one, it's much cheaper than booking a standard cabin for just one person. When you're booking a cabin for a cruise, you probably see that there's a per-person price for each type of stateroom. And of course, you can add different modifications, different locations, packages, and everything else. What's not quite clear from this price when you're booking through the website is that you're actually being quoted a per-person price assuming double occupancy. Double occupancy means that the cruise line expects there to be 2 people in the room. If there's not 2 people in the room, you will be charged a double occupancy supplement, and that per-person price that you saw will be drastically higher. Basically, the cruise line is trying to recoup the cost of not having another passenger in your stateroom. The supplement usually ends up costing about the same as the regular per-person price, meaning that your overall cruise price isn't that much different if you're booking 1 or 2 people. With the studio rooms, there is no supplemental cost. Let's see how this works on the NCL website. Let's say that I'm a solo traveler trying to save some money on a trip down to Mexico. I find this great cruise on offer and I want to book the cheapest cabin I can. I go to the website and see the price per person of $1,156. But remember, this is based on double occupancy. If I go through all the steps before booking, I can see that my total cost will be $2,311 after taxes and port fees. If I change this booking to only be for one person, I will now be paying $2,149 after taxes and everything for the same cruise. Basically, my double occupancy supplement is the difference between the total cost for one person and the per person cost for double occupancy. So basically, it's not that much different to pay for two people than for one. Now let's look at the same cruise booking the studio room. The price shown here is the single occupancy price, since there's no double occupancy supplement. That means that after taxes and fees, I will be paying $1,371 for a studio suite on the same cruise. That is a savings over a normal inside cabin booked for one person of over €750. If that's not a compelling enough reason to book a studio cabin as a solo traveler, we don't know what would be. Now before we get on to a tour of one of these rooms, it's important to also talk about the cons of these studio suites, because there are some, of course. One huge con is that the rooms are much smaller than regular cabins. For example, an inside stateroom on the NCL Epic is between 120 and 180 square feet, of course depending on the type chosen. The studio suite is 100 square feet. Granted, there will only be one person in there, which saves space, but that is so much smaller. Another downfall of these rooms is that they are all inside cabins. If you were hoping for a beautiful balcony or sweeping sea views, you're not going to get any of that in the studio suites. Of course this makes sense. After all, the cruise line does exist to make money, and the outside views and balconies are some prime pieces of real estate for guests willing to pay more. Other than these two issues though, we couldn't find many problems with the studio suites themselves. They're a great concept for solo travelers, and a great way to meet people who are in the same travel situation that you are. So now that we've learned a little bit about the studio cabins, let's take a tour of one of these cabins from a recent trip we took on the Norwegian Epic. This is room 11507. When you enter, you'll notice the size right away. It is a compact room, but it doesn't feel too crowded, and it does feel very modern. The bed is rather large for a single person, and the overall space is comfortable. Each of these rooms has a frosted glass window that you can't see in or out, which leads out to the hallway. The hallway lights are usually dimmed, so if you like some light while you're sleeping, you can keep these shades open. Or if you like it pitch dark, you can close them as well. There's a regular sized TV in the room with all of the same functionality that the televisions in the other rooms have. On either side of the television are standing closets with plenty of space for hanging clothes, and there's also drawers as well. We were actually quite surprised by the amount of storage space in this room, given that it's only for one person. There's also a small desk with a chair below the TV, if you need it. In these Epic studios, the toilet and shower are in different stalls, and the shower was actually a very decent size, on par with any standard cabin room. The Epic is the ship, of course, that has a very odd shower and toilet configuration by the front door in a balcony cabin, so we were a bit jealous to see the layout in these studio suites. You can check out the tour we did of our balcony cabin on the Epic in the link down in the description below. One interesting feature in this room is the lights. There are a couple of overhead lights, but there is also some backlighting around all the furniture in the room. You have settings that you can select from on the panel on the wall, including a nighttime setting, which creates a soft blue light, a day setting creating this nice brighter light, and even this romance light? Anyway, overall the layout of this room is very practical, and you can tell they're not huge, but there really weren't any complaints from the guests we talked about who used them. So basically that sums up our review of these studio suites on NCL cruise ships. They are a good alternative for solo travelers who not only want to save money, but also want help meeting people on the cruise as well. For now, the studio suites are the only real way to save those double occupancy supplement costs if you're traveling alone. However, there might be some good news coming soon based on this message on the NCL website. Thanks for watching this video, and we'll see you in the next one.